and thank you all for coming to join us. Today, this is the Red Hill Resident Panel. We'll be hearing from residents who have been affected, both military and non-military folks who were directly impacted by the Red Hill fuel leaks. And before I bring them on, I just wanted to ask everyone to please remain respectful when we're asking questions. It does take a lot for these wonderful ladies to speak up and share their stories with us. And so I really just want to acknowledge their bravery and resiliency and thank them for coming out this evening. And with that, I'd like to invite our residents, Red Hill residents, to turn on their cameras. And if everyone could please please join me in welcoming them, either in the chat with your reaction button. Awesome. Okay. All right, so we're just gonna go right into the questions. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. If you could each take a one by one, just introduce yourselves and where you reside.
Sorry, dropped my phone.
Hi, my name is Belinda Miles, and I currently reside in Port Island.
Welcome, Belinda. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lacey Quintero. I currently live in Waipahu.
I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Chris Anton, and I'm a former tenant of Capilina Beach Homes in Eva Beach, and currently live on the mainland now.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Samantha McCoy, and we live in Aliamanu Military Reservation.
Hi, Samantha. Welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Kiki, you're on mute.
So sorry. So the first thing we're going to do is just go through some questions that I created. And then we're going to open it up for the audience to ask their questions. And then we'll close out from there. Okay. So the first question is for all of you. When did you first become aware of the problem, and how did that information come to you? Or how did that information, yeah, just not the when, because I don't want anybody to get in trouble. My apologies. How did you first find out about the leak?
Okay, I'll go first. So I saw some like concerning posts on Facebook, and then I realized like we were sick, and I started putting two and two together. I went online and I was just Googling like water, Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, and the first thing that pops up was a Civil Beat article. I read that article, and it was talking about the Department of Health advisory to not drink the water if you're a Navy water system user. That's how I found out.
So just to make sure I heard what you said right, you found out first initially from Facebook, and then the Civil Beat articles? Okay.
Yeah, I saw posts that were just vague on Facebook, like, hey, is anyone having water problems? And I was like, huh, that's weird. And so I was just digging around online, and that's the first thing that popped up. And then I saw Sierra Club articles, like older ones, and then I started just kind of reading from there.
Thanks, Lacey.
Hi, Same as Lacey, I was on Facebook and I saw a post saying, hey, is everybody feeling okay? Is anybody having a problem with waters? Because we're hearing that the water's contaminated. And I went to the Facebook post and I was like, well, we don't live in AMR, so we're obviously not affected. And, I just kind of sat and watched and through Facebook, and like Lacey, I Googled, Navy water contamination, and some of the same links popped up, and it was frightening and it was scary. And just to find out from Facebook. So.
Thanks for sharing, Belinda. How about you, Samantha?
I found out from my husband, who saw it on Facebook while he was deployed in the middle of the night.
Wow, I can't imagine what that must have felt like. How about you, Chris?
I had seen in our local Facebook group for our community some questions about the water, and really that something was happening possibly with the Joint Base. And then there was a lot of questions that came out if we were on that water line. So then a lot of people were wondering if we were affected or not, and there was a lot of confusion. I know that I was hoping to find out soon, so it was somewhere like December 3rd timeframe that I had started seeing some more concerning things, like a neighbor going to the ERs, and having issues happen to them. And so we were hearing ambulances and seeing that. And then we started asking questions. So we got a couple of local politicians come into our community and really push to get answers if we were with Navy water lines. And that was kind of finally confirmed around that same time. Nothing from our actual landlords or tenants, and nothing from the Navy, and nothing from Department of Health that would have directly told any of us tenants that we were possibly having contaminated water. So we only really had to keep pushing and asking questions to get anywhere.
Thanks, Chris. So the next question that I have is for Belinda. Belinda, to what extent did the exposure to contaminated water adversely impact your health?
So I think the extent right now is not fully known, but we moved to Oahu in April of 2021 and have been sick ever since. Some of the symptoms and illnesses that I've experienced are still experiencing are migraines, chronic vertigo, vomiting, fainting spells, nausea, headaches, memory loss, muffled hearing, tinnitus. I have a constant eye twitch that hasn't gone away. I've had severe depression and anxiety, chronic pain in my hands and my knees and my limbs, night sweats, body and leg rashes, fine motor skills dysfunction, lower back pain near my kidneys. On November 19th, 2021, I had a hysterectomy and a bladder repair. And after my surgery, I was ill. I had pelvic and abdominal pain, belly button burning, because I was only able to consume water, which was contaminated, and was completely unaware. I had no idea how much damage that did to my body. While I was even more vulnerable trying to recover from my surgery, I've had countless ER visits, CT scans, brain MRIs, abnormal EEGs, vascular surgery appointments, and the doctors can't find anything. So it's the water.
Thank you for sharing that, Belinda. For You mentioned the symptoms, and I did want to ask one of our other panelists here, Samantha, what symptoms are you still experiencing 8 months later?
Well, I have had a migraine every single day since the middle of February. I have insane high blood pressure daily to the point where I have a machine to take it at home. I have episodes that I'm still trying to figure out what they are because military doctors do almost nothing. I kind of zone out and I'm not there. Losing time. It starts with my head. I don't feel right. Like it's not a particular way. I just don't feel right. Metallic taste in my mouth. My hands up to my elbows go numb. I get chest pain. And I'm unresponsive. My husband will touch my shoulder, try and get me to react, and I am not able to. And half the time I don't even know that he's doing it because I'm not with it. I've also recently developed a stutter that I've never had a stutter before. And now I often struggle to talk because it's so bad.
Thank you for sharing, Samantha. I just want to pause here and reiterate that these are all symptoms that might sound like they could be the cause of something else, but it's incredibly, I don't know, unusual that the one factor that's common across many of the stories that I've heard and folks who are from different neighborhoods is that they drink contaminated water. So I would like just everyone to keep that in mind, that these are not just one-off occurrences. They're not non-specific symptoms. There is a cause for all this. And on top of that, there are impacts that are outside of that go beyond the health problems, right? And so the next question I have is for Chris. Chris, can you share what choices you were forced to make as a result of the fuel leak and subsequent water contamination?
Yeah, hi. Just hearing those other two symptoms just kind of made me tear up. So sorry about my voice, but I just can't believe we all feel the same symptoms. I mean, and it just, I feel so bad for everybody and future victims, and because it's not being handled right. But the choices I was forced to make, because I was a civilian, so I wasn't active duty military, so we weren't given any assistance. So even though the DOH declared anybody on Navy water systems, they actually didn't notify us. So once we finally discovered on our own we were on that water system, we were actually told it was safe by our landlords, and that we were on some different system was what we were assured. So I took a shower that December 3rd night thinking showers were okay because that's what the Department of Health thing said, and I ended up being covered in oil and having a really bad medical reaction, you know, health issue. And I cut off all the water. So I had a choice then. I said all the water shut off that evening. So I wanted to protect my children. So I'm a single mother, and there isn't a lot of homes and a good rental rate that accepts our pets as well. So I'm forced to look around to see what we can do. And first off, I just wanted access to water. So I didn't think this was going to be such a long-term event at first. So my decision was to spend money, a lot of money, and I had no other choice. And I was begging for hotel, for water for our community, shower access, laundry. vet care, anything to help our neighbors, anything we might need for what this incident might entail, and I couldn't get anywhere. Really until the Army declared our area an evacuation zone in mid-December. That really helped, but it still helped all our neighbors that were military get help, and we didn't. So the week later, my kid ends up in a wheelchair because her legs don't work. She was in so much pain that evening. And so I'm just saying, once it starts, I've shut off the water for them to do that. We're only on bottled water, but we had no idea the level of contamination, and nobody was really helping us. So we're just left out, and we're running to the ER and only to be sent home. So when we're sent home, I'm gonna put my family back in this contamination. So I'm told by a really wonderful doctor at Queens West in Oahu, in Eva Beach, that we're exposed to air issues. There's no way our symptoms are not air related as well. And to be very careful to keep our windows open, keep N95 masks on, and try to stay out of the home as much as possible and get away from the contamination is your first and foremost thing you can do for your bodies and your health. So I'm desperately searching for a hotel, but by then in mid-December, the military has taken up most of the hotel spaces, and I can't afford as much. So I sell my son's car, I'm selling things, I'm selling anything I have, and I'm using some of my savings and whatever I have to get us to a safe place. So because I was not going to put my family in there. So we go into the home, into a hotel, and it didn't have elevator, so I had to cancel, and I had to do something special to cancel our thing, and then I had to go find another one, and I just was sitting like midnight in the parking lot in Waikiki trying to find a place, because I will not go back home into the home, and I'm too scared of what it's doing to us, because now my kid's in a wheelchair and I'm sick, and we're all sick, and we all have all these symptoms, so we don't know what to do because nobody will give us care. So I am forced to get us in the hotel. I think this is great, but what do I do now? Because it just kept going, and we didn't get water to our community till late December, like December 18th. So with that doesn't even help with most of the other services you need. So I really was forced to find medical care off island and people that could help us. And so I flew our family out in the end of January just to save my kids. So I was kind of in a rock and a hard place, and I couldn't afford Hawaii at a hotel on my own with no help. So we weren't given money till months later when we could apply for it. In end of January and February or March, we can apply for it, but we didn't get our money till months into it here, you know. So it was really a rock and a hard place. And we're forced to just medically move emergency. And I'm forced to also go back to the mainland where I have a violent ex, and I didn't want to be somewhere he could drive. And so you're putting my whole family in a situation I felt really forced into again, and bringing all that anxiety to our family. We're already dealing now with a medical issue we don't know what to do with. So I just wanted to kind of inform everybody, they didn't help us, and they still aren't really.
Thank you for sharing, Chris. I'm really sorry you had to move off island. It sounds like you lost everything, and everything was upended, and you were not afforded, it's a unique situation because you're a civilian living on the military property. That was a different experience in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's not military property, it's private property.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
It's they sold it, but they still kept their pipes to those buildings. So that was old military base, but it's private Capilina Beach homes. Anybody can rent there. I'm just anybody. And so it was a mix, I would say like 40, maybe something % were active duty military to give them that off base living for their family they wanted. And it has a public elementary school there as well.
Got it. Thank you for sharing. The next question I have is for Lacey. Lacey, what steps, if any, are being taken by the Navy to proactively address concerns in your community?
So this was a really hard question for me to answer. I had to think like, what have they done proactively? Because my first instinct is to say nothing. But then I realized they have done some things proactively. The very first thing they did proactively was that they created this situation. Okay, so I'll just say that. Everything after that point was done after the fact, you know. There was gaps in time where they knew things and then didn't do anything. You know, there was no sense of urgency in the time that they took to notify us, or, you know, to stand up the water stations. Half people weren't getting water, like out in Capelina. The civilians and the government retirees were kind of like, you're on your own. And my neighborhood, you know, I saw that Civil Beat article, but still in middle of January, my neighborhood was not listed as an affected area. So we had this like, oh, we're not really admitting that it's a problem for these areas or these areas. And then we're like, you know, so there was a lot of confusion. Clearly, they've seen maps and they knew which areas were connected to these pipes and which areas weren't. But Hickam, they didn't want to admit that. Rhode Island, they didn't want to admit that. And because of that, they didn't set up services for those areas. So there was like this whole chain of events that were, we'll just say things went badly and things were not done proactively because they didn't want to admit what happened. So there were a lot of opportunities that were missed. We could have been helped and we weren't. Right now, I would say there's a lot of health concerns. That's probably the health and mental health, the largest concerns. And I don't think there's any proactive things happening there. People who have TRICARE Prime have to be seen by military providers. They're getting dismissed. They're being told that these symptoms cannot be tied to water contamination. So how can you get treated for it if you don't admit that it's a problem? Well, that works out great for them. I get that, but that doesn't help us. So there's no proactive healthcare happening. It's just dismissive and gaslighting at its finest. Mental health care, I'll tell you the mental health care I received. I went to the emergency, whatever they called it, the Fleet and Family Support Center. I went there to get emergency mental health care. I was so stressed out and completely in despair. And when I went, I talked to the counselor there that was available. And she cried the whole session. And she said, I'm sorry, this really sucks. My family is staying in a hotel next door to you. So we were all affected. And there really wasn't much help. As you know, mental health is hard to come by on this island. Healthcare, the wait lists are ridiculous. It took me almost till February to get an appointment at the doctor's office. And when I did, I'm lucky because I am TRICARE Select. I see providers out in town. And whenever I called them and said, my kids are sick, my kids are having these problems, the pediatricians told me the Department of Health does not recommend we give you any testing for this. So we're not getting help. I've had to hound their pediatrician. I've had to pay out of pocket for functional medicine to detox. And it was only then that I started to feel the acute symptoms that were supposedly short-term, which weren't. Only then that I started to feel a little bit better. But our long-term health concerns are not being addressed at all. Sorry, I talked a long time.
I appreciate you sharing what you shared, and also, you know, it calls attention to the issues that were around both in the military and on the civilian side, that there is a shortage of mental health care providers. So, you know, what hope do we have, all of us, if the next disaster, not natural disaster, but the next disaster comes through, you know, what will that do for all of us if we don't have the supports in place to respond for communities and for the folks who need it the most. Thank you for sharing. My next question is for Belinda. Belinda, what effect has the water crisis had on your children?
Okay. So at the very beginning, our son, he had vomiting. Both our kids had chills, headaches. Our son has eczema. So when he got body rashes, we took that as maybe he was having eczema flares. But then my daughter started getting splotches all over her body that wouldn't go away. They had itchy, dry skin. They were lethargic. My kid has ADHD. He's a special needs child. And when I say they were lethargic, they were literally just hanging out on the couch, not jumping around, just abnormal behavior for them. We started to see aggression in them, and uncontrolled tantrums. We saw regression in potty training with our 3-year-old at the time when she was 3, to the point that we put them both in behavioral health services at Tripler. And our daughter, she began to have itchy red private parts, so much that I received a phone call from her preschool teacher notifying us that our daughter had been, hands in her pants, and they checked her and she was irritated, but maybe we should check her for possible pinworms, which of course she didn't have. But the thought was like, it's not, it was, she began biting her fingernails. She began biting her toenails. It was scary to explain to our children why we couldn't use the water faucets at home or at school to wash their hands, to fill up their bottles, or, even at home when we were taking baths. We were taking camp style baths, with the portable shower and the 5-gallon tub from Home Depot or wherever we got it from. And then we were able to get a hotel room, and we were excited that we were going to have fresh water, showers, and things like that. But again, special needs children, it's hard when you have to drive them and take them to another location every other day for showers and things like that. It became an absolute nightmare in our home. We were taking, like I said, those camp style baths, but, which we still do. We put filters on some of them, but, we make sure we do our best to, filter the water and, use bottled water. We don't, we don't use the house water to bathe in or to cook with. It's just 2 of our perfectly healthy cats, who were like our children. We had them before our children began to get sick. They had vomiting. They wouldn't eat. Their overall health declined. We took them to 3 different vets, and they were unable to figure out what was causing the direct illness. They took tests and there was no cancer. The labs looked fine. And we did end up losing one of our cats, and, we're still trying to keep the other one healthy. It just completely wrecked our children's need to feel safe. They don't have that safety factor anymore. They're constantly worried about where the water's coming from. My 6-year-old constantly asks when we go anywhere, can we use the water to wash our hands? Can we, is this the ice? We never get any ice from anywhere. We don't know where the water comes from. And that's just sad. that we have to explain to them. We don't know. We just don't know.
Thank you, Belinda. For my next question is for Samantha. How has the water crisis impacted your family, your home and family life?
Well, we were lucky enough to be given a hotel room. And so we had access to clean showers. We actually got into a routine of every other day or we would leave as soon as rush hour comes, people coming home from work, we'd leave, go eat, get all 4 of us showers and come home. And it lasted so long, it became to feel normal. Just having to go get a clean shower that doesn't burn your skin. And now that we're home, our water burns my skin. I feel like I have a sunburn 100% of the time. And I've become so sick since April 1st from this. All my symptoms started with the flushing. When they would come flush the water, I would have all of my symptoms. And April 1st, I stopped needing to be near the water because I don't know if my body's just so overwhelmed that now anytime I can have it. Now I haven't driven since April because if I am not with it, I'm not going to get behind a wheel. It's completely mixed up everything. I had to find people to bring my kids to school because I couldn't drive. I still can't drive. I have to talk my kids into showering still. Like, we have the filters and I have to convince my teenage son to go take a shower because teenage son. And even they don't want to use it. Our life still isn't back to normal.
Thank you, Samantha. It's really disheartening to hear, what this has done to family units. I can't imagine any people would want to go out and play and spend time together when you're so worried about just the water and the air and the environment that you're living in. It's definitely a privilege for people who weren't affected to go out and just be outside and drink the water that we drink from our faucets. My next question is for Chris, and I think you sort of answered this one in your earlier answer. What impact or what obstacles have you faced as a non-military resident during the water crisis?
I did answer some of this, but I still want to address it a little because it's really important to people know. I think even if they've heard of Red Hill finally or have not, and this is their first time really going to hear about it, they need to know that they didn't help civilians. Civilians were not given even basic water, and we weren't given a place to have a shower or laundry. We only did our own drives, our own community drives to help just get clean, just to get things off of Amazon. So we did our own fundraising, bought our own camp shower type things. I only drove around to which stores I could find water to bring home gallon after gallon and carry it in. And then I bought brand new pots because I was afraid of what I had. And knowing that all my other stuff was contaminated. So our obstacle in the beginning was, how do you live in this? So we were camping in your home and you're paying for this home and you can't. Ours was upstairs, our bath was upstairs, but our kitchen was downstairs. So you're holding boiling water to go upstairs to fill half a tub and then put the other half a tub in regular to get it to a good warm, and then try to get 4 people a bath, and that's gross. I mean, the obstacles were immense because one, my kid was 5 and that was horrible for her. And she had the owie pee-pee spot all the time. Her skin hurt and we couldn't figure it out. And she still has chronic itchy skin. My older 2 are ADHD and high anxiety, and they need their, I had a schedule for them and we had a path and we had already, they're teenagers. And so we had learned our ways with each other for the best thing for them. And it got stripped from us. Our choices got stripped from us. It wasn't just a disaster. So our obstacles are similar to so many and nobody knows about that. But our obstacle in addition to it would be that there still is no urgency, and we need to push the Navy to have urgency to help, because they really shouldn't just have reimbursed water or hotel like we were some application for that. They know we're all affected and we're having numerous visits with specialists and drives, and all our lives are uprooted and we've all lost money of our own to just try to help our own families and neighbors and lives. So there needs, for me, the obstacles are access to that, because if you're out the money and then you can't do the appointment because you don't have the gas money, just even these simple things, or that simple, I can call and ask them how the water update's going, or we're going to get our weekly update. I mean, we have these obstacles that we can't even do because there's just no care or help there. So I'm just still shocked about it. And major obstacles are restarting your new life somewhere, and it wasn't your choice. It wasn't your life plan. There's a lot of mental issues with that, with all of my children and us, and anxiety and depression and all these things that are very hard to tackle, in addition to the fear of what's happening to our bodies or what might happen to. So just kind of want to get that message out.
Thank you, Chris. And this one's for Lacey. What impact does the lack of access, not just the actual drinking of the water, or contaminated water, but what does the lack of access to clean water have on your health and mental health today?
So we moved off base. We had to take out a loan to move off base to get into a house that I hope has clean water. I probably spent nearly $1,000 testing my new home because I was so scared to use the water here in my new house. Still having RO filtered water delivered to my house here. I'm too scared to use our water here. We do shower with filtered water here, and I don't let my kids take long showers, and it has to be like cold water because it's scary, The first time I had to throw away all my pots and pans, had to buy new pots and pans. And the first time I went to cook in this new house after not cooking for months, I filled a pan full of RO filtered water that I have delivered to my house. And as it started to boil, I just completely broke down, because it's like, I'm still like scared to use water and cook with water, even though I'm supposedly in a safe house. Our health, there's like the short-term health concerns, and then there's the long-term stuff. And we're still kind of dealing, for my youngest child, we're still dealing with like the short-term stuff. She's still like having rashes and stuff that never healed. She lost pigment all over her body, her face, arms, legs, butt. these weird rashes that won't go away that they keep saying is ringworm, but it's not ringworm. Had to get, creams for her eczema that she's never had before in her life. Those rashes just, I can't use any products on her anymore. She's got curly hair, can't use detangler in her hair, or else she has complete full body. She's like allergic to all kinds of things now. After I exercise, if I do like 20 minutes on the elliptical, I'm completely wiped out for days. So I can't exercise. But other than that, like my acute symptoms are gone. But what I worry about more is the long-term stuff. And that's impacting my mental health in little ways and big ways. My kindergartner lost her first tooth and I cried. I was so scared that it was because of the jet fuel, that her teeth are rotting out of her mouth. My kids have had these black circles under their eyes since we moved here. And every time I see their face, I'm scared. I don't know what's wrong with them. Like, is that going to go away in time? Is it because their body's still filtering stuff out? My kindergartner still has hair loss, which is related to her thyroid. Both kids still have thyroid problems. I have 2 girls with thyroid problems. They were 3 and 5, they're 4 and 6 now. And I worry about that all the time. Is this going to affect their ability to have their own children someday? Is this going to affect their children that they have? Are they going to have genetic damage because of this? I worry about my kids' kids. I worry about when the leukemia is coming. The Department of Health says that the dose makes the poison, and the dose that we all received was awful. And if the dose makes poison, we're all waiting for the leukemias, the blood cancers, the lymphomas. We're all just waiting for it. 10 years, sometimes I'll lie awake in the middle of the night and I count how many years until my oldest child turns 18. And then I go and I look into statistics online, like how long does it take to get a leukemia diagnosis in children? What are the first signs of leukemia? I have a spreadsheet with all of the fuel-related cancers and all of the first signs and symptoms, and I check it often. So you can tell it's affected my mental health. Yeah.
Thank you, Lacey. I think, that's normal behavior for somebody who's gone through such a traumatic event. I mean, for myself, I think I would definitely want to be absolutely vigilant about what my kids are exposed to, what I'm exposing, where I'm going to live. Those are just the things just off the top of my head. And we're going to move on to our last question here. And this is for all of you. What is one thing you hope our virtual audience members do after watching this panel today?
I'll go first. I will say that the affected community we're too far into our health concerns right now to deal with the other concerns. And so if you're watching and you're a non-affected community member, then we need you to care about the water quality and the standards, to ask the hard questions. What is the EPA doing? Why are they regulating things? Why are they not regulating things? What's in your water report in your neighborhood? Why are there no limits? Why are those limits so high? We need somebody who can spend time thinking about this, because we're all too sick to deal with those things. Why is the Department of Health raising limits on dangerous chemicals? We need people to tackle those things, because the systems failed us. EPA failed us. The Department of Health failed us. The Navy failed us. The healthcare providers have failed us. We need them. If there's a way for the unaffected community to stand up a team of providers to help the affected community, that'd be great. We don't have the mental ability to sit down and do this all by ourselves, because we're worried about our kids and our own health.
Thank you, Lacey.
I can go. I wrote a few things. I would really hope people reach out to look up Sierra Club Hawaii, look at all the things they have on there. There are things to reach out to politicians, keep doing the petitions. Please sign any of that and keep the numbers up. The action, make it an actionable item for the others that make these decisions around us. Oahu Water Protectors, please try to be a part of that. Any red hill shutdown. And September 20th, 2022, there'll be a march in Washington, D.C. It's Trevor's Trek, but it is really about what IDing, tracking, and investigating cancer clusters nationwide. So because other things have happened, say in Flint or in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, or there's been other toxic spills either from, industry people, businesses, and they still don't investigate clusters and then help the people have these actionable things to go list it, make us more educated and aware of what these toxins do to humans. So everything changes. They're never used again. Why don't we have a better fuel system for our jets so we don't have a toxin sitting there above our water? So whatever we can do to change and enact that, I would encourage everybody, because that's a long-term thing to think about, but we're all on that cancer docket and we're all gonna watch symptoms. And if you can really push any of your, what was the, I made a note, whatever your specialty or skill is, whatever you got out there. I mean, we got people with amazing skills. So, if you're really good at YouTube or you're really good at something else, please reach out, message anybody part of this. I'll take the message and hook you up with somebody in one way that you want to help. Please help and say, I don't know, I just know how to make spreadsheets. Well, we need somebody to make spreadsheets, or, whatever you feel you can do, we need it. And everybody needs it. Those there and those who have moved away still need it, because we're all in it together. So I just wanted to have that message out there. Partner and help. Whatever you feel you can do it. And we're pushing our bodies and our health and our mental health to do more than we ever should have been pushed to do. So I know you all can have it in you.
Thank you, Chris. How about Samantha and Belinda? Do you want to?
Yeah, one thing I know, just for the military community, I know we had a committee that had 3 rear admirals talked to and questioned about, and one of the rear admirals, Bennett, stated that he's not seeing any medical issues at Tripler. There's just nobody that's sick anymore that's from water contamination. And we have his phone number. And if you're a military member, married to a military member, know a military member, anybody, call them and call his secretary, get on the docket to talk to him and let him know what your issues are. Because apparently Tripler is not seeing, and I think another one of the reasons that Tripler, the numbers may be low, is because they refuse to talk to you if you have water contamination, when you go. So I would say, don't say water contamination, use what your illness is. I have twitching eyes or, vertigo or whatever it is. So you can get your foot in the door. And when you get there, that's when you hammer them with, this is why I have this. So what can you do? If they do nothing, and they haven't been, but you can at least have it recorded in your medical records, in your spouse's records, in your children's records, that they denied you care, even though you went to them. It's in ours. I every time I went, I would tell them, okay, I have water contamination. Okay, well, we can't see you for that. What's your problem? And I would just tell them, okay, well, I don't know, I can't hear, I'm fainting, things like that. Document all your illnesses that you have now, because later on, it's going to come back and you're going to need to know, month by month, what everything was, because in the end, the Navy lost our trust. Medical providers in the military community lost our trust to do their jobs. And it's unfortunate that an organization has that much control within the medical community, knowing how many thousands of us were sick. And in the civilian sector, I don't know how they're tracking the civilian sector side, but for the military, call the Rear Admiral Bennett's secretary, talk to them and tell them what your family has been experiencing this past year and let them know, because it's false. We are all sick, still sick, and we'll remain this way until they can help us get blood tests and get it out of our system. I mean, it's never going to get out of our system. I don't know. But my thing would just be document everything and continue to hound them.
Thank you, Belinda. In the interest of time, I do want to get to the audience Q&A. If anyone has a question, if you could type it into the chat, and we only have about 5 minutes. And while we get those questions in, I see Susan's hand raised there. Sam, did you have anything that you wanted to share that you hope the community does just in the next 2 minutes or so?
I just hope that they don't let this get pushed aside and buried, because we're moving. I went to go get to the kids' school so I can get their information to move to a different school. And the office, everybody in it said, "Oh, I thought that was taken care of already, and that's done." But it's really not.
Thank you, Samantha. Okay, Susan, go ahead and ask your question.
Actually, what I wanted to say is, and I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to my face. It was there before, now it's gray, like my hair. But anyways, the things that community members that were not affected that may be listening to this presentation is to start testifying at meetings. So the next Board of Water Supply, they have Red Hill on their meeting, and that's going to be on July 25th. But they have a way so you can put in written testimony. There's the Fuel Tank Advisory Committee. That's another thing. The legislatures that were on the panel yesterday or the day before with the 3 lying admirals, they don't have all the information. So the questions that they were asking were like the tip of the iceberg, but they didn't know that they were actually, I'm going to say, being lied to. And so they couldn't ask a follow-up question not knowing. So being able to somehow set up meetings with these legislators that are concerned is one of the things that we need to do, but not the people that were affected. You guys already have enough on your palette. So, I'm willing to do that. I have no fear of anything. And as one person can make a difference. 2 people can make a difference. Don't sit back and think that you can't. The more they see your face and the more they hear your voice, they understand then that you're going to stick with this. And I was thanked at that meeting from the chair, Jarrett, because I continue to testify and show up and talk and play a role for you all, because I wasn't affected, but I'm here for you all and I love you all. And I feel really bad for what happened to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And I see Xavier, you have a question? Go right ahead.
You need to
Sorry.
unmute, Xavier.
Sorry, I was trying to figure this out. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to say thank you so much again for you guys coming out and speaking out about it. You know, I know that it's really hard. I went through it with my son and my family and my roommates. And it's difficult, but they need to hear you. As hard as it is, they need to hear people that are affected because it makes an impact, and they need to see the hurt and the pain and everything that is going on. Thank you to our allies as well that have stepped up, like Susan. Thank you so much. And we love you. Chris, love you, you know. So just wanted to say, keep fighting, keep calling, go to Oahu Water Protectors. They're amazing. They've been helping everybody. They helped us a lot when we were in Capilina. And Sierra Nevada also has a lot of resources, and they're fighting every day for you guys, for us. And so I just wanted to say, you know, I know it's hard, but we do need you to speak up, you know, not just Facebook. You know, if you can go out and protest, if you can go out to those meetings, all that stuff, it is super important that we all just keep speaking. It's tiring. It's scary. I mean, we were afraid of retaliation, but the minute that you touch my son, the Papa Bear comes out, and I don't care who I'm fighting. I don't care. Goliath, I don't care. Bring it, because children, you know, that's our future, and they've messed up royally. So thank you. I appreciate you guys, and have a great night.
Thank you, Xavier. And just in the last minute and a half we have here, there's one last question. I believe it was from Charlie. It says here, Charlie, did you want to ask it or did you want me to read it?
Well, first of all, I just want to say this has been heartbreaking to listen to all of this, and I thank you so much for coming forward and helping us to understand that this is an ongoing issue. There's a lot of us who really want to follow up with this, and a lot of it is going to require some kind of details. So I hate to say this, but we need to find a way to gather more specific information so that we can collect it and research it and follow up on that, because I don't think it's enough just to sign petitions and all of that. We actually need to hunt down some of the answers to this and hold people accountable for it. And it's not going to be an easy thing. As people have noted, you know, Camp Lejeune has been suffering these things, and it's happened time and again, and it's all over the world. And it's going to be a long haul to do this. So thanks so much for providing what you have already. And, you know, if we can nail some of these things down a little bit, we need to know where most of the areas that are affected, and some of the other details that you folks can provide. Thank you so much for helping us with that.
Thanks, Charlie. We're at 6 o'clock, and I know I want to be respectful of everybody else's time. If we weren't able to get to your question, please feel free to send them to me at kmills@faithactionhawaii.org. Thank you so much to our panelists. We know that one conversation can't fix everything, but I think the more that we push and get the word out there and educate, we'll be able to move the needle on this. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope everyone here has a good night. Aloha.
Thank you for doing this, folks. This is great.